Good day, everyone. I am Justin Maralviar, and along with me is Muhammad Yasser Arimao, and we will be discussing regarding Lydia Hall's Care, Cure, Core theory and Myra Levine's conservation model. Let's first start with the Care, Cure, Core theory and knowing Miss Lydia Hall. Lydia Eloise Hall is a nursing theorist and was born on September 21, 1906 in New York City, USA. In her education, she received her nursing diploma from New York Hospital School of Nursing in 1927. She continued to study further in the field of nursing. She was able to earn her degree in public health nursing in 1932 and master's degree in the teaching of natural life sciences in 1942, both at Columbia University. In her profession, she served as a registered nurse, public health advocate, college professor, and research analyst. She also served as the first director of the Loeb Center of Nursing. As a nurse, Lydia Hall was greatly interested in rehabilitative nursing for chronically ill patients. Through her leadership as a director, she was able to reduce rehabilitation time of patients into one-half or one-third, and became a prime example of nursing-led care in many centers in the United States and Canada. In 1967, she received the Teachers College Nursing Education Alumni Association Achievement in Nursing Practice Award. In 1984, she was inducted into the American Nurses Association Hall of Fame. Throughout her profession, Lydia Hall was able to author 21 publications and numerous articles pertaining to her theory. So what is the Care, Cure, Core theory? This theory is also known as the 3 C's of Lydia Hall and highlighted 3 essential aspects in the field of nursing, namely care, cure, and core. In this theory, Lydia Hall defined nursing as the participation in care, core, and cure aspects of patient care, where care is the sole function of nurses, whereas the core and cure are shared with other members of the health team. Through her statement, we can interpret that there is an interpersonal relationship between the nurse and patient in facilitating the core and cure aspects. There are 3 assumptions in her theory. Number 1, it is within the patient where energy needed for healing resides, rather than the healthcare team. This emphasizes on therapeutic self-care, as the patient strives to recover upon recognition of his or her feelings. Number 2, the 3 aspects of nursing, care, cure, and core, are to be viewed as interrelated and not as separate. Thus, one cannot function efficiently without the other. Number 3, the said 3 aspects interact with each other, and the circles representing them change size depending on the patient's total progress. Therefore, the weight of each aspect depends on the patient's condition. Now we proceed to the meta-paradigm. In this theory, it identifies the person as the source of energy and motivation for healing, and the focus of nursing care. Lydia Hall recognizes that the individual is unique and is capable to grow and learn. In terms of health, it is defined as a state of self-awareness with a conscious selection of optimal individual behaviors. The emotions, motivations, and perceptions are considered in an individual's health progress. Next is society and environment. In this theory, the environment is related to the individual such as family, friends, and culture. In addition, the environment should be conducive for self-development in order for the patient to attain efficient healing. Lastly is nursing, and it is recognized to consist of participation in the care, core, and cure aspects, which are the 3 main concepts emphasized in this theory. Shown in this slide is the conceptual model of the care, cure, core theory. Each aspect is represented by a circle and are intertwined with one another. This symbolizes their interrelationship and where efficient nursing can only occur when the 3 are present. The second picture shows a weighted version of the theory's conceptual model. Depending upon the needs and progress of the patient, the weight and necessity of each aspect can change. Thus, the size of the circles may vary depending upon the most needed aspect. The first aspect is care. In this aspect, the nurse focuses on nurturing patients. This involves the different caring practices and the interpersonal relationship the nurse and patient establish in order to provide healing. Moreover, the goal of care is the patient's comfort. Through care, it provides opportunity for close nurse-patient relationship, which is essential for communication of concerns and emotions. The next aspect is cure. Cure is involved in the administration of prescribed treatments and medications by specialized health professionals. An example of cure includes the daily dosages of medicines the patient requires in order to achieve recovery. Additionally, the responsibility of cure is shared by the healthcare team. It does not solely rely on the patient or the nurse, but to each member involved in assisting healing. The last aspect is core. Core refers to the patient or the recipient of nursing care. In this aspect, the patient sets goals for oneself and engages in therapeutic self-healing. This involves examination of one's feelings and recognizing them to provide motivation for healing. Furthermore, the core aspect focuses on the emotional, intellectual, social, and spiritual needs of the patient in relation to family, society, and the world. The different kinds of needs of the patient are considered in providing nursing care. The core aspect provides a two-step process: reflective technique and motivation. In the reflective technique, the nurse acts as a mirror to help the patient explore one's feelings regarding one's health status. It is through this technique that the patient is able to receive guidance and acquire in-depth reflection regarding oneself. The next step is motivation, where it is discovered when the patient becomes consciously aware of one's feelings. The patient is able to identify goals for oneself, which serve as motivation to achieve healing.
Now at this point, we are going to talk about another nursing theory, which is Myra Levine's conservation model. On December 12, 1921, Myra Estrine Levine was born in Chicago, Illinois, and is the eldest child in the family of 3 siblings. She became interested in nursing because of her involvement throughout her father's persistent gastrointestinal illness, which contributed to her devotedness in the field of nursing. And as she passed away on March 20, 1996, at the age of 75, she dropped a legacy as an administrator, an educator, a friend, a mother, nurse, a scholar, a student of humanities, and a wife. For her education, she received her diploma in nursing from the Cook County School of Nursing in 1944 in Chicago. Then in 1949, she finished her Bachelor of Science in Nursing from the University of Chicago. Her Master's of Science in Nursing was then granted to her from the Wayne State University in Detroit in 1962. Myra Levine had experienced several careers. In the span of 39 years, from 1944 to 1982, she worked or served as a private duty nurse, a civilian nurse, a preclinical and clinical instructor, a director of nursing at Drexel Home in Chicago. She also worked as a surgical supervisor, a chairperson of clinical nursing at her alma mater, the Cook County School of Nursing, a professor of humanistic studies, and a visiting associate professor. In total, she was able to publish 77 articles. She has been known and awarded by the Loyola University the title of Renaissance Woman, who is highly principled, remarkable, and committed to what happens to the quality of life of patients. She was awarded as an appreciation for using her vast knowledge to contribute in nursing care. Now, Myra Levine's nursing theory or model is known as the conservation model, dealing with 4 principles of conservation. In this esoteric model of nursing, the goal of nursing is to promote adaptation and maintain wholeness using the 4 principles of conservation. Levine's conservation model believes that nursing intervention is a conservation activity with the four principles as a fundamental concern. It guides nurses in the provision of care that will help maintain and promote the health of the patient by concentrating on the importance and responses at the level of the person, since every patient has a different array of adaptive responses, which vary based on personal factors including age, gender, and illness. When an individual is in a phase of conservation, it means that the person has been able to adapt to the health challenges with the slightest amount of effort. Levine presented three major concepts in the conservation model, aside from the four principles of conservation. First is adaptation, which is the process of change and integration of the organism in which the individual retains integrity or wholeness. Adaptation is described to have three characteristics: historicity, specificity, and redundancy. It is a historical process as it is based from past experiences. It is also specific since each system of the person has a very specific response to stimuli. Redundancy describes that if one system is unable to ensure adaptation, then another system can take over and complete the job. Now, the capacity of individuals to adapt to their environmental conditions is called the organic response, which is divided into four levels of integration: the fight or flight response, inflammatory response, the response to stress, and perceptual awareness. Now, the second concept is conservation. It includes joining together of the life systems of the individual and is a product of adaptation, including nursing intervention and patient participation, to maintain a safe balance of energy supply and demand that is within the unique biological realities of the individual. And the third concept is wholeness. It exists where the constant adaptation to the environment permits the assurance of integrity. So, the nurse must strive to address the client's internal and external environments to allow the client to be viewed as a whole person and not just an illness. This figure or image shows the conservation model and the different concepts that it holds. The core of Levine's conservation model is to improve the physical and emotional well-being of a person by considering the four domains of conservation she set out. Levine stated that the conservation principles do not, of course, operate individually and in isolation from each other. They are joined within the individual as a cascade of life events, churning and changing as the environmental challenge is confronted and resolved in each individual's unique way. The nurse, as a caregiver, becomes part of that environment, bringing to every nursing opportunity his or her own cascading repertoire of skill, knowledge, and compassion. It is a shared enterprise, and each participant is rewarded. Nursing's role in conservation is to help the person with the process of keeping together the total person through the least amount of effort. Levine proposed the following four principles of conservation. First is the conservation of energy. This refers to balancing energy, input and output, to avoid excessive fatigue. It includes adequate rest and nutrition. The second principle is the conservation of structural integrity, which refers to maintaining or restoring the structure of body to prevent physical breakdown and promote healing. Now, this includes assisting the patient in exercise and preserving of patient's personal hygiene. For the third principle, the conservation of personal integrity. This recognizes the individual as one who strives for recognition, respect, self-awareness, selfhood, and self-determination. It includes acknowledging and preserving the patient's space needs. And the last principle is the conservation of social integrity, which exists when a patient is recognized as someone who resides within a family, community, religious group, an ethnic group, a political system, and nation. This includes helping the individual to preserve his or her place in a family, community, and society. Now we are going to talk about Levine's conservation model in the nursing meta-paradigm. In the concept of the person, it is described as the unique individual in unity and integrity, feeling, believing, thinking, and the whole. Also, it is the holistic being who constantly strives to preserve wholeness and integrity. Levine's assumption in the individual is that each individual is an active participant in interactions with the environment, since this ability seems to be ineluctably tied to the individual's sensory organs. Now, in the concept of health, it is described as the pattern of successful adaptive change of the whole being. It is not merely healing of an afflicted part, but it is the return to daily activities, selfhood, and the ability of the individual to pursue once more his or her own interest without constraints. In the concept of environment, it includes both the internal and external environment. For the internal environment, it consists of the homeostasis, which is the state of conservation or energy sparing that also provide the necessary baselines for a multitude of synchronized physiological and psychological factors. It also includes homeoresis, which is the stabilized flow rather than a static state that emphasizes the fluidity of change within a space-time continuum. It also describes the pattern of adaptation, which permits the individual's body to sustain its well-being with the vast changes which encroach upon it from the environment. For the external environment, it is divided into three environments. First is the operational environment, which consists of the undetected natural forces that interact with the individual, even though sensory organs that can record the presence of these factors are not possessed. It includes all forms of radiation, microorganisms, and pollutants. Second is the perceptual environment. It consists of information that is recorded by the sensory organs, including light, sound, touch, temperature, chemical change that is smelled or tasted, balance, and proprioception. Lastly is the conceptual environment. It is influenced by language, culture, ideas, and cognition that encompasses the ability to think and experience emotion, value systems, religious beliefs, and individual psychological patterns that come from life experiences. Now, in the concept of nursing, it is described as the profession as well as an academic discipline that is always practiced and studied in concert with all of the disciplines that together form the health sciences. It is emphasized as the human interaction relying on communication and rooted in the organic dependency of the individual human being in his relationships with other human beings. Now, Levine's assumption in nursing is that ultimately, the decisions for nursing intervention must be based on the unique behavior of the individual patient. Patient-centered nursing care means individualized nursing care. It is predicted on the reality of the common experience that every man is a unique individual, and as such, he requires a unique constellation of skills, techniques, and ideas designed specifically for him. Levine's conservation model can be easily applied in the nursing process. First, in the assessment, patients will be assessed for challenges to their internal and external environments that may impede their ability to achieve complete wellness and health. Areas being focused are energy conservation, structural integrity, personal integrity, and social integrity. Next, in the judgment stage, the nurse will take the provocative facts of the patient's situation and organize them to add meaning to the patient's circumstances to decide patient needs and possible nursing interventions. This process is also referred to as trophicognosis. Now, for the hypothesis, hypothesizing about the problem and its solution will eventually form a care plan for the patient. Then, the nurse will speak with the patient regarding it. The interventions aim to promote wholeness and adaptation by addressing the four areas of wellness that were stated before. Lastly, in the evaluation stage, the nurse will consider both supportive outcomes, which provide comfort to the client, and therapeutic outcomes, which improve the client's sense of wellness. To summarize Levine's conservation model, Levine expressed the view that within the nurse-patient relationship, a patient's state of health is dependent on the nurse-supported process of adaptation, and that the goal is to recognize, assist, promote, and support adaptive processes that benefit the patient through accomplishing the four conservation principles. And that's all for our discussion of Lydia Hall's Care Core Cure theory and Myra Levine's conservation model. Here are sources that we used and that you may use for further studying or understanding of these theories. Thank you for listening, and we hope that you have learned a lot from our discussions. Again, thank you and good day.